everybody. Welcome back to Open Chat. Today I have a special guest, Kai here,
Hi everybody, how's it going?
who will be joining in on this. Today the conversation is about redemption, and just a brief definition of the word is the action of saving or being saved. And then, of course, in religion, people use it for saved from sin or saved from an error or evil. Redemption also means the action of regaining or gaining a possession of something because of a debt that was paid. I will go ahead and dive in and start reading from John 9, and we're kind of going to shorten the story up some. So I'm going to skip some details, and then Kai is going to pick up some stuff as well. All right. While Jesus was walking, he saw a man who had been blind since the time he was born. Jesus' followers asked him, "Teacher, why was this man born blind? Whose sin made it happen? Was it his own or his parents?" Jesus answered, "It was not any sin of this man or his parents that caused him to be blind. He was born so that he could be used to show what great things God can do. While it is daytime, we must continue to do the work of the one who sent me. The night is coming, and no one can work at night. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." So then Jesus goes and he heals the man. And the first questions was coming from the disciple. The disciples believe, well, since this man has an error or a deficiency or a defect in his life, that he must have had sinned. If he didn't sin, then his parents sinned. Somehow there was some kind of evilness to allow this man to be blind. This is their perception. And then once Jesus heals the man, then you have the leaders at the time, the Pharisees, who made sure the law was basically law and order. They made sure the religious law was obeyed. We're going to go from 16 to 41. Some of the Pharisees said, "That man does not obey the law about the Sabbath day, so he is not from God," talking about Jesus. They're saying basically Jesus committed a sin because he performed a miracle. Someone was healed because of him. Others said, "But someone who is a sinner cannot do these miraculous signs." So they could not agree with one another. They asked the man again, "Since it was your eyes he healed, what do you say about him?" And the man answered that he was a prophet. The Jewish leaders still did not believe what really had happened to the man, that he was blind and now healed. But later they sent for the parents. They asked them, "Is this your son you say was born blind so he can see?" The parents answered, "We know that this man is our son, and we know that he was born blind. But we don't know is why he can see. We don't know who healed his eyes. Ask him. He is old enough to answer for himself." They said, because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. The leaders had already decided that they would punish anyone who said Jesus was the Messiah. They would stop them from coming to the synagogue. That is why his parents said he is old enough to ask him. So basically, that's why the parents didn't want to tell that they knew Jesus or that Jesus was the healer. So the Jewish leaders called the man to come in again. They said, "You should honor God by telling the truth. We know that this man is a sinner." The man answered, "I don't know if he is a sinner, but I do know this. I was blind and now I see." They asked, "What did he do to you? How did he heal your eyes?" He answered, "I already told you that. You would not listen to me. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to be his followers too?" They kind of go back and forth, and so Kyle's going to start in verse 28.
At this point, they shouted insults at him and said, "You are his follower, not us. We are followers of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we don't even know where this man came from." The man answered, "This is really strange. You don't know where he comes from, but he healed my eyes. We all know that God does not listen to sinners, but he will listen to anyone who worships and obeys him. This is the first time we ever heard of anyone healing the eyes of someone born blind. The man must be from God. If he were not from God, he would not do anything like this." The Jewish leaders answered, "You were born full of sin. You are trying to teach us." And they told the man to get out of the synagogue and to stay out. When Jesus heard that they had forced the man to leave, he found him and asked him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The man said, "Tell me who he is, so I can believe in him." Jesus said to him, "You have already seen him. The Son of Man is the one talking to you now." The man answered, "Yes, I believe, Lord." Then he bowed and worshiped Jesus. Jesus said, "I came into this world so that the world would be judged. I came so the people who are blind could see, and I came so that people who think they see would become blind." Some of the Pharisees were near Jesus. They heard him say this. They asked, "What are you saying, that we are blind too?" Jesus said, "If you were really blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But you say that you see, so you are still guilty."
And so we see in this story where Jesus basically, being that he came in this world as an example and as a redeemer, he gives this man sight on the Sabbath in spite of the religious leaders in their opposition. And that kind of thing still happens today when it comes to some churches and different religious organizations, where you still have your leaders or people above that say this can't be, and they try to measure what God's love should look like on your life. And so even after they got mad at the man and kicked him out, Jesus still went to go find the man, to still ask him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" And at this point, when Jesus healed the blind man didn't even believe in Jesus. He didn't necessarily believe in God. But Jesus, in his mercy, still healed the man in spite of the man's belief and the people around the man's belief. And in our own lives, in our own story, we have all experienced in some ways, in some forms, even if you say every day you wake up in the morning, you receive redemption. We know that Christ, when he died on the cross and when he rose again, and his blood covered all of our faults and all of our sins, we understand that he redeemed our lives from sin. I wanted to just briefly talk about a time when I needed redemption. I think my soul, my spiritual side, the parts of me that made me feel like I have purpose or that I'm worth something, it was just dry and it was dead. And it had gotten down to the point to where I even had a suicide attempt. And I had to be redeemed from that state of mind and redeemed from the mindset of not being worthy of God's love, because God's love doesn't look like humans' love, and it doesn't have the same restrictions, and it doesn't have the same borders that we have for one another. When I realized that only God could save me, that's when I began to change my mindset and change my life and get more spiritual strength. And then once some of my spiritual strength came in, I was able to get out of a lot of the things that I was in. I was able to pull out of a lot of different unnecessary things that I was in that was just really harming myself. When God gives us redemption from situations, it comes with peace beyond our understanding and peace that no one else can probably understand. And even for this man who was blind, he was born blind. So he was blind for years and years. I mean, you would probably even say there's no way he thought he could probably ever be healed. But God in his grace and mercy was able to heal this man. And then did it on a Sabbath, and then did it against the laws that was there. And I really believe that God's grace brings redemption for us all. And his love brings redemption for us all. Because even though man's love have parameters, you can experience a higher love. And not only experience a higher love, but you can change your life for the better and for the good, and your daily routines. You can add positivity into your daily life instead of just living and just letting it be. But that's my story with redemption. How about you? Do you feel like you've had any stories that you've been redeemed from or experiencing redemption? So we wanted to change the angle some because we're about to share a story that is not only real but redemption in itself. Because of Christ's love and believing in Christ and having faith, that Kyle is experiencing this part of redemption in his life.
6 years ago, I had got myself into some trouble with the ex of mine. I ended up catching a charge for domestic violence. And at that time, I really didn't fully understand or wasn't too much aware of the severity of the situation. A lot of the things I didn't feel like were my fault. And I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to go through it. So I got through the process of being bonded out the first time. I went through that and going to court, and I got an agreement to get 4 years of unsupervised probation and some community service hours and some classes that I had to take in order to be done with it. Keep in mind that if I had done all of these things, then I would have they would have dropped the charge after the 4 years, so it wouldn't have been against me on my record. Well, I didn't want to be bothered with it, and I didn't feel like I needed to be. I didn't need to be in the situation that I was in, so I just mentally I found a way to get out, which was run away, and I ran away from my obligations. So I kind of the whole 4 years I disappeared, and I don't know what I thought. It felt like it would just disappear, if I didn't think about it, it would just go away, and it didn't. I was at work, and I ended up getting some property stolen from me at work, and I had to call the cops to file a police report for my boss. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten paid for that assignment that I did. So I called the cops and I filed the police report. And once they ran my name, I found out that I had a warrant out for my arrest. So they ended up bringing me back to Colorado. And I had to pretty much go through the whole process of everything that I didn't want to do at first all over again. I was angry, I was still angry, holding on to a lot of the anger from once it had happened. And I think, once I started to change a little bit is after going through the classes that I had to go through Like, I didn't want to do those classes either, and I didn't want to be in them. But the lectures were real, and I guess they put a lot of things into perspective as far as, you know, my faults and what I actually did to cause the situation to happen. Is basically, you know, teaching ourselves that we are to blame for a lot of the situations that we end up putting ourselves into. I don't know if I would necessarily call it redemption, but it's some form, I guess, because I didn't have to be given the opportunity to do it again. You know, I could have been thrown in jail. My charge holds up to 2 years in prison, and they could have given me that, but they gave me the opportunity to, you know, try again and, you know, rectify the situation. And it cost me a lot of time and money and headache, stress. So I guess for it to be over in a few weeks, it feels surreal. And I kind of have felt like a prisoner for the past 6 years of my life, and I do feel some form of freedom coming from all of this.
Do you feel like your mindset was redeemed some, like being saved from how you thought before to now? Like, did your thinking process change? Did it make you better?
I think my thinking process has changed a lot. In a way, I'm more cautious. I'm more nervous to do a lot of things now than I was before. Like, I guess I had a I don't care attitude when it came to doing certain things. So now there's a lot more thought behind anything.
Like, at what point did you feel led to have more spiritual strength, or do you feel like that helped somewhat versus the mindset that you had before?
I think
Do you feel
my
God or your faith played any kind of role?
Probably my spiritual aspect probably played a role after the day that I got transferred from Florida back to Colorado, and they put me back in that cell, and I think I had like a breakdown, and I cried and I started praying, you know, because I didn't know if I was like really gonna make it. I didn't want to be in there, and I didn't really have the mindset to just deal with it. And I think I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and I think I wasn't in there for more than 2 or 3 days before I got released, and I was bonded out. And I think the faith came into play because of who it was that bonded me out. Like, I didn't understand what was going on, and I think at that time it made me. I wasn't angry yet. I think I was more confused than anything else, because the same person that I ended up catching my domestic violence charge for, 6 years prior, or I guess at that time it would have been about 4 years, but that's the person that comes to bond me out of jail. So it was, and I didn't ask them to. I didn't want them. I never asked them to come and get me. They just did it on their own. So
now, do you feel like you've grown spiritually, or do you feel that having a daily relationship with God makes you better or want to continue?
I think having a relationship with God does make you better. I think the process is always continuous. It's like, I guess we're not perfect, so, it just takes time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're definitely not perfect, and that's what, when we're being redeemed from a lot of different things, there's always sometimes things we might not even know that we should have redemption for, that we should seek God redemption for, that we could be redeemed from. Again, going back to the blind man, he was born blind. They had never heard of miracles. They had never heard of miracle of that kind, where someone born blind, now they can see. So I can imagine his faith was as little as none to even think that that was even possible. And even for you, you said, even though you didn't ask him to bail you out, but for 3 days, you didn't know what was possible. You didn't know what wasn't possible. You didn't know how long you would be there. And even though when you after you ran away from the situation and you had to face it again, all the different things that I know I've seen you go through, as far as the financing and the classes and the different things, I mean, I really feel like you came a really long way, and now it's about to be over for you. And I'm really proud of you, and you have been growing. You're working on getting back in school. You just got your notary. So, I mean, I think you're doing great. And I believe that there's more things, that we both will have redemption from. And things that are errors or corrections that need to be fixed or straight. And that's the good thing about God's love, is the fact that it doesn't have, I know I keep saying borders and stuff like that, but it doesn't have a limit. When Christ died for us in our lives, it didn't have a limit to that. And so even now, you have a lot of I'm just probably going to say Christian or religious people that Catholics, they feel that, okay, you have to live this way, and if it's not this way, then it's not the right way, or it's not God's way. And God's love doesn't operate off of that. It never has. It never operated off of what we wanted for ourselves, but it always operates off of what is best for us. But that is it for Open Chats today, and for redemption. Be safe. If you can get vaccinated or learn more about it, I'll say do some research. Let's not ignore all the deaths and the numbers that's getting worse and worse. Love your neighbor and reach out to somebody this week. All right, that's it for us, and talk to you later.